Hey paisanos, it's me, Mario again, and welcome back to another fun-filled Nintendo Mania. Why am I on your screen? Well, stop asking questions, will ya? We got a special episode planned for you today, talking about the B3313 iceberg. What'd you think, this was more boring Mario 64? Well, this is a brand new adventure, where me and my bro Luigi explore a brand new castle. But that's not all. There are plenty of secrets to find and things to discover. I got an intern here who's gonna be voicing the iceberg. He's quite the amateur. Don't be too hard on him. For gameplay, Luigi's gonna take the reins on this one, and you'll be in for a hoot. Now let's get going.
The main theme around B33 is personalization, and you can see it everywhere in-game, from enemies changing into different variants, multiple types of coins with all different effects getting added, and even stuff like your UI changing. All of that is because of the game's inherent personalization, giving each player their own unique, personalized experience. Unlike in Mario 64, that only has the classic yellow stars, B33 contains two additional types, red stars and green stars. Red stars serve as the game's main form of progression, sort of like the keys in Mario 64, but to a lesser degree. Before obtaining a single red star, the game is very limited. You are unable to perform all of your moves, such as long jumps, as well as flips, sending you much lower than usual, along with most of the game's areas being inaccessible. Getting your first red star will truly open up the game. You'll be able to access almost every single area in the plexus, along with unlocking back the long jump. As you gather more and more red stars, the game's personalization will start to kick in, and these stars can be gathered in any order. Once you get all 13, you will be able to truly beat the game. Green stars are different. These will be unlocked once you gather 120 normal stars, acting as sort of post-game stars. There are also 13. They just serve as an extra collectible, kind of like how they work in Mario Galaxy 2. These stars help make B33 a bit more unique compared to other ROM hacks that usually just have the basic yellow stars that Mario collects. Exclusive to B33, Luigi is finally playable. By hitting one of your triggers, you will be able to swap between Mario and Luigi. This can only be done in the castle grounds during daytime, and Luigi has no other special effects compared to Mario. His inclusion serves as a reference to the fact that he was originally meant to be playable in Mario 64, before being lost in the code. But everyone knows that, don't they? Have fun with him, but make sure you give him time to catch his breath. The AI is the main driving force and antagonist in B33. The castle being a massive mess of Mario 64 levels is due to them. They are a character directly taken from the Mario Classified series, a faceless Mario that has almost total control over the castle, being the sole creator of all of its levels and areas. The AI is trapped in the plexus just like the bros, originally just being an enhancer to make Mario 64 run better, has been left alone to run rampant within the castle walls. A special feature in B33 is the day-night cycle. Once your real-life time hits 8 p.m., the game will turn from day to night mode. What happens during night mode is that you are unable to switch brothers in the courtyard, along with the wing cat being inaccessible outside. The most notable changes are in a lot of the levels that will have nighttime variants, having new music along with a dimmer tone. The main vanilla lobby will also garner a new starry variant, along with some other changes. Once it hits 5 a.m., the game will turn back to daytime. The beta lobbies / beta lobbies are the most common areas that will be seen in B33, as fast traveling will always take you here, along with being where the original lobby was in Mario 64. As the name suggests, this lobby is near identical to the actual beta lobby that was in the beta of Mario 64. Now you may have noticed that I said lobbies, as there are actually 5 of them. Lobbies A, B, C, D, and E respectively. Looking into the ceiling once you've gathered 10 stars will cycle you between lobby A, B, and C, while D can be entered via different means. Lobby E is basically an identical recreation of Lobby A with different UI. I know it's sort of confusing. The only difference between the beta lobbies visually is the numbers on the doors, along with having unique levels and warps, taking you to all different parts of the castle. On a first playthrough, it can get very confusing as you may think the lobbies change on their own without player input, and it just adds to the already confusing nature of B33. With how many different levels and areas are contained within B33, it leaves the game feeling very maze-like. You'll spend most of your game time exploring the castle, entering random doors, just trying to find levels in new areas. And new areas there are. The game has well over 100 areas, including hundreds of levels and rooms alike. Totally exploring the castle can take dozens of hours, and this game will have you wander the familiar rooms for hours. That's sort of the appeal. Having no idea what you could possibly find next or what each painting will lead to adds to the feeling of wonder when exploring. The game finds a way to keep you engaged by the various levels that will have more classic Mario 64 gameplay, along with the surreal and strange castle that makes no sense at all when exploring. With how each area leads to the next and then back to itself, you will never really hit a dead end, just going in loops until you find a brand new area. This kind of gameplay is really unique to B33 and is not something many games really replicate. As the entry suggests, B33's content is not entirely original, a lot of levels either being direct parallels to the beta of Mario 64, or being references or direct inclusions of content from other Mario 64 ROM hacks, and the one that stands out the most is Mario Classified. This is a very popular Mario 64 horror series, and is where the AI I mentioned earlier comes from. Almost all the areas from this series have been almost directly added into B33, along with the AI from it also being added into the game, showing up multiple times. With how much content that B33 has from Classified, without it, the game would be much different. But Classified is not the only series that B33 takes inspiration from. Breaking the Barrier is another YouTube series that has a few areas added from it, but unlike Classified, the areas are usually changed up quite a bit, along with Dream 64 having a few areas from it too. It's cool being able to play around in all these areas from these videos, especially Classified, as unlike Breaking the Barrier, it doesn't actually have a ROM hack associated with it. B33 Unabandoned was an unofficial extension to B33. Originally, after the 0.9 version of B33 came out, the project was going to end there and was left abandoned, until the Unabandoned team basically finished the project. 0.9 had a problem with broken star IDs that the Unabandoned team fixed, along with them adding a good few areas of their own. The Unabandoned team is still working on another update to this day, or at this time this video is getting made. Eventually, Chris did release the official 1.0 update of B33. Unabandoned and 1.0 are pretty much the exact same in most ways, but 1.0 has removed a few unabandoned areas and added their own, along with some of the music being different between versions. But no matter what version you choose to play, you will get a very similar experience. Plexel Lobby is another one of the most frequent lobbies that you will find yourself in, as you will be sent here every time you die inside of the castle. And for 1.0.1, every time you would die in a level that was not entered via painting, you would also be sent here. This lobby looks quite similar to the beta lobbies with the same general color scheme, but having a red hue covering the entire lobby. This lobby is quite large and has a lot of doors that will send you to various different areas in the castle. You will definitely become familiar with it as you play B33. Corruptions are an event that can happen in B33 when entering a new loading zone. The textures will become glitchy and discolored. The chance of this happening gets higher and higher the more stars you collect. It also functions differently between Unabandoned and 1.0. In Unabandoned, the music will also get changed and glitchy, while in 1.0 it's purely visual. Other than looking weird, the corruptions don't actually change anything, other than being a funny surprise. In specific scenarios, when dying inside the plexus with 0 lives instead of a game over, your lives will be sent to -1. Each death after it will have it go to -2, -3, etc. This sort of functions as infinite lives, as you'll be unable to game over. The easiest way to get negative lives would be to jump inside the pipe in Plexel Lobby over and over. Your live counter will be set back to normal simply by resetting the game. The plexus is what the castle is referred to as in B33, the name being a reference to the internal plexus of the castle entry on the original Mario 64 iceberg. Certain levels prove this, such as the level Secret of the Plexus and Vanish Cap within the plexus, etc. B3313's subname is also called Super Mario 64 Internal Plexus. Horror events are one of the most infamous features in B33, and the feature that makes it truly special. Within the plexus, there are several strange entities and events that can occur that will usually result in your game crashing. The most well-known of these are the multiple encounters with the AI taking form of a faceless Mario clone, who will come after you and crash your game. Showing up multiple times, they will definitely be the most well-known of the horror events, but some others include the lethal lava land fire bubble that comes out to chase you in the basement, other Mario 64 enemies who seek revenge on the bros, and even Bowser himself. These horror events really make B33 special, as you never really know when you're going to come across one, and they're used sparingly enough to not be overdone. While most of B33's levels are entirely original, or areas from other ROM hacks, the levels in the aforementioned beta lobbies are almost direct copies of the actual beta Mario 64 levels. These levels are the very first ones that a player will usually encounter, and can really deceive the player into thinking that the game is just a Mario 64 beta recreation, until they gather their first red star, and the game truly begins. This is one of the more enigmatic entities in B33. I already talked about the AI/faceless Mario in the plexus, but the shadowy figure is another entity that instead takes on the form of Luigi, showing up about as much as the faceless Mario does, and it functions similarly. This creation is mostly an original thing. The AI is from the Mario Classified series, as I mentioned before, but the shadowy figure seems to be based on the Mario silhouette, a supposed personalization effect in the original Mario 64, where a strange shadow clone of Mario could be found by the basement door. This is also where the shadowy figure can be found in B33, and this figure seems to get a kick out of tormenting the bros, as you'll see later. Along with actual beta levels being used, real beta enemies are also found in B33, the most popular of these being the Motos, removed entities that were planned to be in Mario 64. They function very similarly to the Chuckias, but instead of spinning around, they'll just carry you and then throw you. Other beta enemies include the Grasshoppers, Blargs, the Wallmen, who are the original version of Womps, and the classic Unagi Eel. Along with these beta enemies, B33 also contains a lot of new enemies, such as Bloopers, Goomba Towers, the multicolored Bob-ombs and Goombas, Thwimps, and so on. This really helps with the enemy variety. With so many levels, it's great to see some new and old faces. I touched on about it at the start, but one of the game's most defining features is the personalization values, and how the game tracks what you do and changes accordingly. But almost everything you do gets tracked. The amount of time you spend running, swimming, and in the air gets tracked. The amount of stars you have, how much damage you've taken, and how much time is spent reading signs, talking to NPCs, how many times you've died, etc. All these actions will affect the game's dynamic difficulty, adding harder variants of enemies to make the game tougher. These values really add a unique experience to B33. You will never know when the stuff around you can change at any moment. One way you could describe the experience of B33 is associating it with liminal spaces, and that's true to some extent. The game really hammers down being alone, stuck in a giant, ever-changing castle, with the strange music and odd rooms you will come across. With how familiar but off so many areas can feel, it really gives you the same feeling as a liminal space, like uncovering a distant memory as a child. I think the best example of this is the parallel lobby. With joyful music and somewhat familiar layout, it really just feels like an area you would find in a dream. And the area feels sort of comforting in that way. But like with liminal spaces, the feeling of comfort is also shared with a feeling of unease. And in B33's case, the feeling of unease is definitely justified. One thing you will notice quickly when playing B33 is the changed moveset. At first you will realize this when you find out you are unable to long jump, but even when you gain the ability again, you will have some new moves available. The sliding kick has been replaced with a somersault, and most notably the triple jump spin. Instead of a typical triple jump, the third jump will have you do a spin, in a similar vein to how Luigi's backflip works in Mario 64 DS. You will quickly realize how broken this move truly is, making a lot of hard platforming trivial, and allowing you to skip huge sections and levels. Your moveset has also been changed a lot in other ways. Ground pounding is almost instant now instead of having a small startup. When getting shot out of a cannon, you'll be sent into a gliding state like with the wing cap, and speaking of the wing cap, it now lets you fly infinitely high, making it much more useful, and you no longer have a double punch kick combo, and it's just being reduced to a punch and kick combo. Finally, your overall physics are just a lot floatier, making platforming more lenient. This makes B33 a nice ROM hack for people less experienced with Mario 64, by having an overall easier Mario and Luigi to control. Vinny from the Vinesauce channel did a playthrough of B33 a few years back, with Vinesauce being a very large channel and each of these videos getting hundreds of thousands of views. This was a very large popularity boost to B33, and this is how one of my friends ended up discovering it, who was the Mario by the way, who later told me about it. Vinny originally played the 0.9 version to my knowledge, and then later played 1.0 when it came out. As I said before, this was a huge boost to B33's popularity. Without it, it would probably be much less well known. Other YouTubers did play it as well, such as Simple Flips and Simply, whose vids also gained hundreds of thousands of views. Watching B33 playthroughs are really enjoyable since with the game's design, every playthrough is entirely different.
Welcome back, paisanos. That's layer 1 done, huh? I hope my new intern didn't bore you too much, and you stuck around. Don't worry, things will get interesting soon. Probably. But before we move on, let's check in on Luigi. How you doing, bro? Ah, looking good. Now let's get going.
Dry Town is one of the most well-known B33 levels. You spawn in a large tunnel that leads to the town, as the town looks relatively peaceful, containing several homes along with the big house from Rainbow Ride, and a large tower that contains the level's main star. You can talk to some Bob-omb Buddy NPCs here. The first NPC has some cryptic message about welcoming visitors with the depth they bring as they enter the level, and the other Bob-omb mentions that the villagers do not like to be disturbed and to stay quiet near the doors. This serves as kind of a hint as how to get to another one of the level stars, as kicking 5 separate doors will cause another star to spawn. Now entering the pipe on the big house will send you to the top of the tower and cause the entire level to flood. This is one of the many levels that will be flooded by the brothers. Now, this level is definitely one of the most interesting. Once the player gathers the Grand Red Star, requiring all stars to be gathered, a new NPC will spawn here, just to ask you, what are you doing here? Along with all the stars here needing to be gathered by disobeying the Bob-omb's various requests. This level has one of the most iconic songs in the game, being a sad combination of the Mario Bros. Underground theme and the Dire Dire Docks theme, making a very somber track fitting with the level. This is most likely the first level that you will flood, and definitely won't be the last. While most areas and references usually stick to Mario 64, there are several non-Mario 64 references in B33, mostly areas that come from other Mario games. Some of these include the Battle Fort from Mario 64 DS, and where you fight King Womp is a reference to Super Mario Galaxy 2's Throwback Galaxy. It's not just areas though, you can find brick and question mark blocks referencing the original Mario Bros. It's interesting that the AI in this world is able to take assets and ideas from future Mario games that don't exist, and retroactively generate them in the Plexus. During B33's long and convoluted development history, many areas have been removed and added. Many of these areas were removed back in the very old versions of B33, but some got removed more recently. In total, 90 areas, including levels and castle rooms, have been removed. Some of the more notable areas that have been removed are areas from the unabandoned version, when 1.0 released, such as Wall Castle, one of the most creative lobbies, being almost entirely outdoors. It would take me forever to go over all the areas that got removed, but it's sort of a shame. The more areas the better in my opinion, but I understand that some of these levels were most likely pretty boring. This is a lobby that I mentioned briefly earlier on the iceberg, and is another very iconic lobby, and that mostly has to do with its music. The Parallel Lobby theme is a very peaceful tune that really encaptures the dreamlike feel of B33. Like the regular castle, it technically has 3 floors, all looking quite different, mainly in layout, with very open rooms and many doors leading to other levels. The name really makes sense, since with it being a parallel to the main lobby, maybe in a parallel universe. Anyway, the lobby's enchanting music and familiar design really makes it stand out as one of the most calming areas in B33. Wet Dry Paradise is a level that serves as an opposite to the other Wet Dry World-like levels. Instead of being desolate and depressing, Wet Dry Paradise is a happy, welcoming town. The music parallels this, being a much happier rendition of the song in Dry Town. The main star here has you destroy the water crystals that you have used to flood Dry Town, along with all the NPCs here being happy and welcoming into the city, where other NPCs, like the ones in Dry Town, are already well aware of what you're going to do to it. Overall, this level serves as a refreshing approach to the Wet Dry World formula of B33, and it really gives off a positive aura. The pipe playrooms are a strange area that can be found by entering a pipe in the beta 3rd floor. The playrooms are a large, expansive network of rooms, all containing various pipes. All the levels here share a similar theme of being based on very alpha-like versions of the game, with most of these levels being referred to as test levels, codenamed platform, or enemies, or so on. This theme is shared with the beta 3rd floor as well. The level's overall vibe and music choice also aligns with Parallel Lobby, feeling extra dreamlike, and I think more so in this area, with the random multicolored walls and dreamy music, along with the strange empty beta levels. What's interesting is after finding it on one of my earliest B33 excursions, I was never able to find it again for a very long time, entirely forgetting about its location, so this area sticks out a lot for me. A very strong theme in B33 that I briefly mentioned before is dreams, and areas that are very dreamlike. When you ask someone the best way to describe B33, a lot of people will say that the game feels like a fever dream. Mario 64 with a layer of total nonsense and fake areas that look like areas you could find in a dream. And the game plays on this feeling. Several areas nod to the dreamlike nature of this game, such as Dream Castle and Dream Battlefield. When first talking to Yoshi in the courtyard, he tells you to let the game flow like a dream. And this actually serves as the best way to play B33. Just play along with all the nonsense and have fun exploring the strange locations. Without a star tracker, you will most likely just gather the stars randomly as you go, by hopping into whatever random painting you can find and moving on. And with how much the aesthetic changes within the castle, it really flows like a dream. And just like a dream, making one wrong turn can have it turn into a nightmare. Polygonal Chaos is one of the largest areas in B33. A massive room that's filled to the brim with, well, nothing really. It's a mass of glitching textures and random other textures thrown about, most of these textures having really buggy collision. The most notable aspect of this area is its sheer size. Usually a lot of the larger lobbies in-game already make you feel small, such as Floor 2B and such. This lobby size is just insane, with the dark fog, not all of it even being visible. This area also contains 2 levels of its own, being CGI Indy and the Shadow Forest, some of the more unique levels. Otherwise, this area is one of the more gateway-like areas. Being so massive, it has various doors leading to various areas of the castle, so you'll most likely be visiting this area time and time again. The aesthetic is most likely a reference to how the vanilla upstairs looks in the Mario Classified series, when the AI reaches its breaking point. Eternal 4 is sort of the final level of B33. Within the deepest part of the Plexus, you can encounter Bowser. This Bowser fight is quite unique, starting off on a small platform, making it very easy to throw Bowser into one of the bombs, until after getting hit once, he will jump onto the upper platform with the other 2 bombs. Defeating him will get you the Grand Star, and will take you to the post-game section of the game. This is based on another personalization effect in Mario 64, an anomalous area that the game decides where you are worthy or not to enter. People theorize that Eternal 4 is meant to be Bowser's castle itself, which is oddly absent in Mario 64. Anyways, Bowser actually has different dialogue here depending on what act you're in, a feature I will talk about later. Pleasant Falls is another level that's not original to B33, but based on a Mario 64 personalization effect. This is an area that has also been in B33 since the very first version. In B33, the level is a large open, grassy plain with a river going through it, along with a large mountain up ahead. The level is also populated by many types of enemies such as Goombas, Fly Guys, Chuckias, and Lakitus. This level is definitely one of the most peaceful levels in the game, with a remix of the iconic Mario Bros. Overworld theme. According to the MIPS whole wiki, where all of the Mario 64 personalization phenomena is located, Pleasant Falls was an area where you could supposedly unlock Luigi, but due to his removal, this level was gutted along with him. If you try to search up a map of the B33 castle online, you'll be met with dozens of images showing an utterly incomprehensible map. Mapping out this game already seems like quite the task due to how many warps there are, and to my knowledge there's not a single actually readable map out there, unless you took the time to decipher something like this. To be honest, I don't think B33 is a game that really needs to be mapped out like this. Just enjoy getting lost, and stay along for the ride. Across the Plexus, you will come across several incomplete areas. When entering the area or reading a special sign, text will appear, notifying you that the area you are in is currently incomplete, and to turn off your system immediately. Other times, it will warn you of potential seizure warnings. In areas like Empty Hazy Maze Cave and Sinister Clockwork, not listening to these warnings will have you shortly killed, but in areas like Illusionary Dark Core and the AI headquarters, the sign will warn you about these seizures, which are actually true as there will be flashing lights. These incomplete areas were most likely left like this by Nintendo. Now in the case of the Empty Hazy Maze Cave, it is actually possible to fully explore it. The level is near identical to the level in vanilla SM64, but the underground lake where Dory is drained, along with bombs being found that nicely tell you to leave. Finally, you can see this message in the final 4th floor, where there will be a square-shaped blockade that you are unable to pass. Entering the door in the moat of the Vanilla Castle grounds, you will come across a small little room. This area is known as the Challenge Lobby. This is another area taken from another ROM hack, in this case, Mario Classified. It's a room that contains 4 doors, 2 of the doors leading to paintings. One door will lead to Bowser's domain, and it's probably best to forget about the last one. Now this lobby actually has 2 other versions that replicate it, one being the dark version of this lobby, where all the doors have been replaced by brick walls, along with a faceless Peach painting now being missing. And finally, a similar looking room in Nebula Lobby, with black brick walls along with 3 more doors, one of them being walled off. In Mario Classified, this room shows up in the episode Epilogue, where Mario is forced to complete 4 challenges. Floor 2B is an area that has a very similar design to Vanilla Peach's castle, but you can quickly tell that something is off. Firstly is the music, which is a slowed down version of the vanilla SM64 castle theme, slowed down to a downright creepy degree. Secondly is the layout. The castle is massive, with giant looming paintings. After leaving the main room and swimming through water, you will come across a much more broken down area, with several massive Bowser paintings and holes in the walls and floor. In B33 Unabandoned, you are actually able to find a red star hidden in this area. This is one of the first notable areas I came across in this game, and it really makes it stand out to me, even to this day, and the creepily slowed down music in this area is one of the creepiest tracks in the game. Now, while B33 is mostly just a maze-like Mario 64 hack, there is semblance of plot and various small plot lines and stories within the game. The main plot lines is with the AI, the main entity behind everything in B33, responsible for creating every level and NPC, but there are also small plot lines that I will be talking about later, such as the secret Koopa society, and how the brothers just love to flood various towns and civilizations. While most levels are devoid of any story or connection to each other, it's cool that there is even any semblance of plot in this game. Prince Bob-omb is a boss that can be found in River Mountain. You can find him by entering the pipe that takes you to the level inside the mountain, where he can be found at the very bottom. According to him, this mountain is his fortress, and you will gain a star when defeating him. His fight is the exact same as the King Bob-omb fight in Mario 64. Now this is not the last time you will see him. You can find him again in the level Prince Bob-omb's Redemption, where he will scold you for destroying his entire kingdom, claiming you have lost your sense of honor inside of that castle, referring to the plexus. There's no way to escape or defeat him once again, as the timer will just count down until you die. Moto's Factory is one of the most unique and popular levels in B33. The first thing you will notice is how detailed it looks compared to most other levels. While other levels stick to the beta theme and are usually very basic, Moto's Factory is an incredibly detailed and large level, with the most stars that any level has in B33. As the name suggests, this level is where motos are created, and you can actually find some friendly motos inside of the level's break rooms who will talk to you. They claim that you are interrupting their work, but quickly change their mind, telling you that you might be able to get a job here, and they need people with energy like yours. With a total of 11 stars to collect, you will definitely be spending a lot of time in this level. Moto's Factory even being the only song in the game composed by the game's creator Chris. This level even contains a sinister secret when you come across a lonely white coin. Anyways, this level actually feels like it could be a level in modern Mario 64 ROM hacks, opposed to how simple other B33 levels are, and I wish there were more levels like this. Definitely one of my favorites. B33 has a plethora of new boss fights in it, including all of the vanilla SM64 boss fights, such as King Womp, the Giant Wiggler, and I-Rock, along with several new ones, such as the Giant Fly Guy, a Giant Scuttlebug, Giant Piranha Plant, and Prince Bob-omb from earlier. In the 1.0 version of B33, most of these bosses will result in a red star upon defeat. Unfortunately, not all of the bosses are that great. The Giant Piranha Plant is just a really lazy reskin of the Giant Wiggler boss. The plant just kind of floats around to imitate its movement. The Giant Fly Guy and Scuttlebug bosses are unique, so I have no idea why this one was just a really lazy reskin. Across many areas in B33, you can find several types of Toad statues. The first one you will most likely see is the one behind the castle. There are 4 types of Toad statues that can be found in the Plexus. The Bronze Toad statues, which are the only statues to possess arms. Silver Toad statues that are the rarest, only being found in 2 areas. Gold statues that are by far the most common, being found in many areas. And finally, the Decapitated Toad statue, found in Haunted Castle grounds. Now we don't really know who built these statues, or why there are so many. You'd expect to find these statues of Peach after, being the princess and all. Yet instead, all these statues are built of normal toads. Maybe they were built by the toads themselves, especially since it's the centerpiece of their own castle. A lot of the NPCs you can find in B33 are, let's say, not as positive as NPCs you would find in your typical Mario game. Most of the time these NPCs are bombs, and they seem to be well aware of the situation they and you are in. A lot of times, they seem to be well aware of the Plexus secrets. Most of the time, they will scold you about taking power stars as they serve as energy, and taking them can have dire effects. Since these NPCs were created by the AI, they are most likely being used as mouthpieces by them, warning the brothers that whatever they are doing is wrong. Other strange dialogue can be found from signs and toads. Strangely, the most normal NPCs seem to be the Koopas, and they seem unaffected by whatever the AI is doing to the other NPCs. The Koopas even have their own storyline I'll talk about later. Most of the unsettling dialogue is just used to mess with the player and doesn't really have any true meaning, or sometimes it's just kind of the creator talking to the player directly with the shame areas and such, areas that were almost entirely removed due to outside drama. Something you may notice is how Lakitu is actually missing in B33. It's common knowledge that he is the one controlling the camera in Mario 64. You can see this by looking into a mirror, but in B33 he's nowhere to be found. But he can still be seen in a few places. Inside of Purple upstairs you can see him in the mirror room that makes it look like he is behind you, before he quickly jumps out and actually functions as an enemy. And secondly is in the ending castle grounds, where he's sitting in the same spot. You first talked to him in Mario 64. But yet again, acts as an enemy. I'm not sure if Lakitu following you was actually in the beta versions of Mario 64, so his lack of presence could be because of that, but maybe he doesn't want to follow you, because he realizes you aren't really a good guy. This area is covered in a red tint with massive Peach portraits on the remaining walls, and you can find a singular platform with a pipe that will take you to haunted castle grounds. Due to this area being an original creation, what it represents is unknown, but I think it's kind of a mini bad ending sort of area. The area you get taken to after serves as that, being really the end of your journey when you don't have all red stars, as the only way to leave is by entering the castle doors, taking you right back to the beta lobbies. This area really reminds me of the level World of Dreams, a similar gateway area containing nothing but a single pipe, with a destroyed looking castle with floating assets and Peach paintings. Unlike the Blood Lake, there is no music, just peaceful birds chirping, and the pipe will take you to Star Road and the start of the post-game areas. With the way these two areas sort of parallel each other, I feel like Blood Lake is meant to be the bad route, and the World of Dreams is meant to be the good. There are two levels in B33 that are known as Peaceful and Scary Sewer Maze. The first maze I'll talk about is the Scary Sewer Maze, as it's the one most players will encounter first. This level can be found by entering a hole inside of the moat, or by entering a pipe in Bowser's Maze. When entering this level, you will get text stating that the sewer system was built by the Koopa crew, and that their sub didn't fit inside of the castle, so they had to make more room. The sub most likely referring to Bowser's sub from Mario 64, and the same sub that contains a boss fight. This implies that Bowser built an entire sewer system under the castle just to fit his massive submarine in. Now other than that, this level may seem empty and uninteresting. The layout is very simple, identical rooms with connecting hallways everywhere, but eventually a certain someone can be found. Peaceful Sewer Maze has a very similar layout and design to its scary variant. Navigating through will have you see an open room with strange looking machine and weird puddles. Approaching it will have text saying "it hurts" show up and will glitch the room's textures. You can actually go between Peaceful and Scary Sewer Maze by standing under the beam of light on this machine. Interestingly, this machine can also be found in Polygonal Chaos, though instead of glitching the game, it will take you to a level. Interestingly, this machine sits in the same spot as the strange shadow sits in Scary Sewer Maze, another parallel. But what is this strange machine? Perhaps it's the remnants of the enhancer used to create the AI, due to the line "it hurts" showing up when approached and all the glitching. It's hard truly to know. The void can be found guarded by Yoshi during the day. He tells you not to worry about what's inside as it's not part of the show. But during night, when Yoshi is not present, it is available to enter. When first entering, you'll be greeted with a long hallway and a star at the end. The star ends up being a trap as you are warped to the void proper. As the name suggests, it's nothing but a black landscape, but moving forward you can find a sign and some fire. The sign scolds you for trying to escape reality again. It asks you if you're feeling okay, and that you can always turn the game off. Jumping into the pit ahead will have the text "It hurts" showing up, and then you'll be warped back to the castle grounds. Now I'm unsure exactly the sign is meant to represent. I don't think it's the AI, as the sign acts sort of cocky, mentioning you as an old friend. I think it could just be the game itself talking to you directly and making fun of you. Inside of Genesis Basement, you can find a pipe hidden away inside of the hedge maze. Going inside, you'll be taken to the Holy Yellow Switch Palace. The area is a dark void with checkerboard flooring and beams of light shining down. Going forward, you'll eventually be met with the yellow switch itself. The switch has a unique function where hitting it will randomize all of your personalization effects, such as removing your hat, changing what personalization enemies spawn, health regen, and everything else I talked about earlier, along with a bunch of other stuff. Now the switch, unlike other cap switches, can be hit as many times as you want, by warping out and going back to this area. I would not recommend it though if you are going for completion, as it can sometimes remove stars. Also, hitting this switch will cause a random text box to appear containing text from any source in the game, and can also sometimes crash your game. Now this area has a lot of plot significance. The entire area of Genesis Basement was taken from the Mario Classified video, appropriately named Genesis, and the yellow switch is originally what turned on the game enhancer / summoned the AI into the game. Though, in B33, due to the AI already running rampant, it does not function the same. The core in B33 can be represented by a staticky looking box that can be found in a few areas. The core is meant to be the heart of the AI in the entire plexus. It originates from the Mario Classified series yet again, where the series ends with Mario finally breaking it, essentially freeing the AI. In B33, it functions sort of the same. Breaking it will freeze your game, essentially freeing the AI, but it won't actually have any impact on your game. As soon as you reset everything, it'll all turn back to normal. Now I think this is because resetting the game is basically reviving the AI yet again, by turning it back on. The only way to truly destroy the core is to break it and never return. Lobby Z.64 is a lobby that can be found by random chance when entering the main castle. This lobby looks the exact same as the normal beta lobbies, but with some key differences. First off, your camera perspective will be facing directly forward instead of to the side with other lobbies. There's also no music at all and only one door, along with the doors back outside being walled off by bricks, and there are no courtyard doors. Entering the single door will take you to WF.Z64. There's also a variation of this lobby that can be found by entering a pipe in Bowser's domain, being the same thing but from the vanilla SM64 lobby instead, and taking you to Bob-omb Battlefield. Now the vanilla version is a direct reference to SM64.Z64, a short horror ROM hack about a progressively creepier and emptier version of the castle grounds in Bob-omb Battlefield. The beta version is an original creation based off of this video, obviously being based on the beta lobbies instead, along with Womp's Fortress.Z64 being an original level. What's odd is, when you encounter this lobby for the first time, the chance of you encountering it again seems to be almost guaranteed, as every subsequent time you enter the castle, you'll almost always be sent to this lobby, opposed to the normal beta lobbies. The only way of escaping this area is by fast travel. Now, the endings in B33 are sort of unorthodox. There are a few ways an ending can be interpreted. I think the first sort of ending is by reaching haunted castle grounds with all the necessary red stars, as without them, you will no longer be able to progress forward, and by entering the castle doors, you will be sent right back to where you started. Another ending that could be interpreted is by defeating Bowser in the Eternal Fort, or the Beta Eternal Fort, as beating him here will give you the Grand Star. And the Eternal Fort is meant to be the final level, and beating him takes you to the post-game areas, such as Star Road. That is meant to be 5 special levels. I think the true ending, though, is gathering all 460 stars, or 488 in Unabandoned. Entering Star Road with 459 you'll be able to enter a pipe that takes you to an area known as Endings, where you can collect your final grand red star. Entering the area will even tell you that you are a super player. Gaining this final red star will take you to the area known as Endless Fun. All you have to do here is talk to a lone toad who will say, "This is the end of the game, but not the end of the fun," and warp you back to the Yellow Switch Palace. And that's it. The game really doesn't have a satisfying ending in any way, because even after gathering all the stars, you are still trapped in the Plexus. This is an area that is able to be found by looking up at the ceiling in a few select lobbies. You'll be first taken to a pitch black hallway with nothing but a red carpet and a few windows on your right side. Walking forward and entering the door, you'll be taken to a very long tunnel. This tunnel actually has a looping effect, so once you reach the end, you cannot go back. Finally, entering the door, you'll find a little painting room and a sign with a question mark painting. Now this painting actually has very strange effects. Depending on what area of the painting you decide to enter, you'll be taken to a variety of levels. Where you go is not always consistent, and it could change with personalization effects. Honestly, this area is one of the coolest looking places in the game for me. With the lack of music, and especially the first room with the strange windows letting in a little light, it's a really surreal experience when you first find it. This is a strange stage with nothing but a massive cake and a star. How kind. The main area it can be found is inside Crescent Castle, where you will find a hallway that looks very similar to the Bowser in the Dark World hallway. Entering the Peach painting will take you here. As you enter, you'll be greeted with a friendly message from Peach. Unfortunately, this cake is just a trap, as stepping on the cake will have it act as quicksand, killing you. And this cake is most likely either a trap from the AI or Bowser. What's strange is that you can actually fall into the same trap that takes you to Bowser in the Dark World, but instead of taking you to a level, you will fall and sink into what appears to be a pile of blood. This could imply that the bros have possibly fallen for this trap before, but blood is not something you'd ever see in this game. You can also enter this level by going behind a Peach painting in floor 3B, where you can find a small little cake waiting for you. Jumping on it will warp you here. The funhouse is a maze-like set of hallways, and all the walls and floors and ceilings that have different colors and textures. The maze looks inescapable, but there are actually doors hidden behind walls. This area is an import of an unused level that was found in the SM64 2020 Giga Leak, called Stage 3. It's unknown what this level was actually meant to be, but it was theorized to be a prototype of Peach's Castle, or some other hub area. The doors hidden behind the walls will take you to other parts of the Plexus, most notably behind Uncanny Courtyard. This is quite a major feature that I forgot to include originally on the ICEBERG. When starting B33 for the first time, you'll be set in something called Act 0, but if the player decides to wait 35 seconds on the title screen, the game will change to Act 1. Act 1 can also be triggered by defeating the final boss and witnessing the ending cutscene. Once in Act 1, there is no way to return back to Act 0 without resetting the game. Now on to the features. I won't list them all because there are quite a lot, but some include dialogue differences when defeating Bowser, additional stars being added in levels, NPCs being added such as Koopa the Quick, some warp chances being changed, and other assets being added such as the Ghost Ship and Beta Jolly Roger Bay. The reason this Act feature exists is it's trying to replicate the star select screen from Mario 64, where certain features are locked away behind choosing a specific star, and B33 does not have a typical star select screen. This is a strange feature that is not directly told in-game.
Hey, paisanos. Sorry, I was a bit distracted. Where were we? Oh, right. Yeah, that was layer 2. Speaking of layers, that castle seems pretty interesting. How many floors and layers can one building have? And that Mario without a face thing was weird. Anyway, let's get going. Luigi, you doing all right? Yeah, layer 3. Let's go. Welcome back, paisanos. You made it back for the next part, huh? Well, Luigi's eager to show you some more. Ain't that right? Mario! What the? That's good, bro. Now let's see layer 3.
Wet Dry World is one of the most well-known levels in Mario 64, but not for any normal reason. This level's recent popularity has to do with how odd of a level it really is, and its supposed negative aura. In B33, a lot of levels are based on Wet Dry World and the story it tells. Levels such as Dry Town, Midnight City, and Downtown City all have a theme of a once thriving city or town being destroyed by the brothers. There are also other levels that take on the aspects of Wet Dry World, like one that combines the start of the Vanish Cap sections into a Wet Dry World-like level. At the end of the day, Wet Dry World is a really weird level in the original, so I can see why it's used so much in B33, since so much of B33 is based on the oddities of the original Mario 64. What you might notice when talking to Yoshi is how odd he seems to act in this game. You can first find him in the backyard where he hints on how you progress in B33. He tells you that getting 10 stars will allow you to switch lobbies and to let the game flow like a dream. He's also guarding the void area as well. It's unknown how Yoshi even knows any of this stuff at all. You can find him on the roof, where instead of greeting you, he asks you what you're doing up there and should be looking for the princess. Finally, you can find him in the level Yoshi's Beach, where he seems to be a lot friendlier, offering to give you a star for finding all his eggs. You're also able to find him inside of Bowser's prison. Due to how strange Yoshi acts, it's most likely that the Yoshis the brothers encounter aren't even the real one, due to them all seemingly being in multiple areas at once, and how out of character they act. While it's nighttime in the game and you enter Vanilla Lobby, you can find a strange yellow toad where a normal toad would normally be. He has a strange yellow star pattern on his head, unlike the regular red toads, and he talks about how the castles always look like how it does, and there's no outside of the castle. The castle is all there is. This toad is a really weird case, honestly. I'm gonna talk about him more later. Along with the several normal toads, a bunch of faceless toads can be found along the plexus. Most of them say the same line and give you a free star. The main key feature of these toads is obviously their lack of face, something that is shared with multiple other apparitions in the castle, such as the faceless Peaches, and mainly Stanley / the AI itself. Due to these similarities, I think these toads were created by him. For what purpose I'm unsure, but perhaps just to add some sort of familiar creature in the castle. This area can be found by defeating Bowser in the Checkered Madness. Collecting the red star here will take you to Peach's secret corridor. This area is a small hallway with no music, with a design akin to the regular Mario 64 castle. The first thing you will hear in this area is Peach calling out to Mario repeatedly, along with a ghost Peach walking away. While following her, you'll come across a side room with a small window. Eventually, after following Peach, you'll come across Peach's portrait. Entering it will send you back to Vanilla Castle grounds. Now, I personally think this area is actually meant to represent where Peach is in the events of Mario 64. A popular theory was that there was some form of space between the two glass portraits in the castle entrance, and perhaps Peach was trapped inside them. Due to this area only being accessible by beating Bowser, and how exiting it will send you to the Peach portrait outside of the castle, I think the secret corridor is meant to represent where she was in the events of Mario 64. Boos can be found almost everywhere in B33, especially in several of the game's main lobbies. In the original Mario 64, boos were really only found in the castle courtyard and Big Boo's haunt. Their frequency in B33 is odd to say at the least, and why they were chosen to be represented so heavily compared to any other enemy. There are several hallways as well where boos can just be found rushing by. Are these boos perhaps deceased Marios who have died inside the plexus? Or am I just looking too deep into it? Entering Hybrid Lobby, above one of the doors, a large, dark star can be found. The star is blue with closed eyes. This type of star doesn't appear anywhere else in B33, so I'm not sure what it is and what it could represent. Maybe it's a dead star that ran out of power. According to the NPCs, stars are used to power entire worlds. Maybe these stars' power has run out, or the AI has no use for them anymore. Within the gardens of the Plexus, a large pane of glass can be found, with Luigi on the other side. Using the Vanish Cap, you can go through this glass and door on the other side. Inside of the door, you'll be in a small room with a lone Luigi painting inside. This Luigi painting shows Luigi with a dark gaze over his face. Entering the painting will take you to breaking the barrier. This method of switching the brothers is a reference to The Man Dressed in Green, a video by Mario Nova, which showcases the method I just discussed. A key difference is the painting itself, as in the video, the painting appears to show a smiling, happy Luigi, while in the game he seems expressionless. Entering the door at the exit of the castle courtyard will send you into a black void with a single star. Trying to grab the star will flood the entire room and spawn dozens of eels to come and kill you. There's no way to escape this area when this happens, as the door you came from is no longer able to be exited from. I'd like to think that the purpose of this area is to really show you that there's no escape. The door is placed in a way that makes it seem like sort of an exit to the whole plexus, being placed alongside a massive wall. By dying here, it really shows that there's no escape from the plexus, and Luigi should know that by now. Mr. I's basement is an area that can be found by entering a wooden door in the basement maze. As soon as you enter this door and the preceding metal door, you'll be sent to a silent series of hallways with dark green walls and the familiar red carpet. You'll quickly notice that this basement is filled with large Mr. I enemies. These enemies are quite unique, as instead of defeating them by running circles around them, they function more as obstacles, as they are unable to be defeated whatsoever, and will slowly move towards you when approached, instantly killing you upon contact. What you'll also notice is you can't leave the door that you entered from. Entering it will just send you back in the maze, along with multiple doors sending you back to the start as well. Anyways, this area is kind of... Oh wait, Never mind, a star can be found here. Hey Luigi, go ahead and This area is an extension of the basement, being a large outdoor maze that is almost entirely dark. More of these giant eyes will be here, along with the staticky walls that will kill you when touched. Getting the 5 secrets here by outmaneuvering the giant eyes will earn you a star, previously a red star in the unabandoned version. Within Bowser's castle, you can find a lone toad within a star door. Talking to him, he will say that the princess is in another castle. Obviously, this is a reference to the original line from Mario Bros. 1. This line also makes thematical sense in B33, as the princess is technically in another castle of sorts, but due to every individual castle being a part of the larger plexus, it's really hard to know where she actually is. By touching the statue in the castle courtyard and proceeding to enter the maze, you'll find a lone statue. Stepping on it will take you to an area known as the checkerboards. As the name suggests, it's just a large, flat platform in the style of a checkerboard pattern with a lone star. This area's origins appear to be inspired from Doodow's SM64 Beta Revival project, as a similar looking area is shown there. This lobby is a long hallway with a blue carpet and skylights that light up the area. The lobby has no music, and you'll only hear the calling of Mario. By following the call, you'll be led to a lone Peach painting and a star. Entering the Peach painting or collecting the star will send you back to Vanilla Lobby. Alternatively, you can enter the corrupted version of this lobby. In this version, the entire lobby is engulfed in darkness. The door leading to the ghostly courtyard is missing. The only way to escape is by collecting the star here. This star, however, is a fake, taking you back to Plexo Lobby. What's so notable is Peach's calls can no longer be heard, and this area's corruption seems to be another doing of the AI. But why destroy an area so unfamiliar to the bros? Within the plexus, a strange sort of clock symbol can be found almost everywhere, including the very front of the castle. Of course, this symbol is also in the actual Mario 64 beta, but what it actually is used for is unknown. It appears to be some sort of clock/compass that usually replaces the normal clock in Tick-Tock clock variants, so it's most likely that. But why is it never used? And the clock symbol also seems to be lacking any hands whatsoever. B33 speedruns are an interesting concept due to the nature of B33's maze-like design, hundreds of areas, and personalization that can make the game even more random. A speedrun may seem to be out of the question, but a few speedruns do exist, with categories like 33/34 star, 35/36 star, and 460 star for 1.0.2. What's interesting is, according to speedrun.com, a true 460 star run has not actually been done yet, so I'm interested to see who ends up doing one first. While inside the stairway to nowhere and entering the large pit, the words "You are worthy" can appear. Now you might notice I said "can", as this is not always the case. The message actually depends on your star count. Entering this hole with below 33 stars will have it say you are not worthy and kick you back to Vanilla Lobby. But having above 33, it will have it say you are worthy and will take you to a special area above the clouds. Now this message is using the signature orange font, meaning that this is the AI itself saying whether you are worthy or not. But worthy of what? Your star count seems to be the only thing that matters to whether you're worthy or not. Does having a higher star count perhaps show the AI that he thinks you're capable of gathering all the stars and finding the core? The 33 is not a very high number of stars at all. Where you get sent to is Dream Castle, a weird random castle with a red star. Why does the AI think you need to be worthy to enter a place like this? The Floating Hotel is another Breaking the Barrier inspired area. It's a large building with brown brick walls and maze-like rooms. Notably, a large hallway can be found, along with a stretch of doors that by entering will kill you and send you back to Plexo Lobby. What's interesting is that these doors don't appear to be enterable until you gather a single red star. The rooms to the hotel are supposedly the hallway of doors, but entering them, as I stated before, just sends you back to Plexo Lobby. Another thing to note is falling off the map here will not actually kill you, but instead land you on the castle roof. Why this is called a floating hotel is strange. The rooms are sort of laid out like a hotel, but nobody actually seems to stay in these rooms, as the doors just kill you. Though B33 has a story going on behind the scenes, individual levels usually do not consist of a story. With the beta and dreamlike theme of the hack, levels being unrelated and not interconnected makes sense. But there's exceptions, of course, and two big ones. But for now, I'm just going to talk about the town flooding plotline, as I'll call it. This plotline consists of a good handful of levels that all have a theme of the bros flooding and destroying civilizations. Now the story does not necessarily have a linear timeline. Each level mostly just consists of the same theme and not directly being connected. Anyways, starting with the level Dry Town, as I talked about before, this level is a large town that seems mostly empty. Talking to the Babam here will have him tell you that all the residents are hiding inside their homes, and getting the star here will activate a switch flooding the entire thing. I'm talking about this level first as it's the one most people are most likely to encounter first. Next is Downtown City, a level that seems to have themes of being ancient, mostly with the architecture and the massive temple in the middle. This level appears to be much more populated, mostly by Goombas. And talking to the Babam here will mention how the city's temple is sacred, and entering it will cause the rivers to overflow. Entering the temple will throw you seemingly forward in time as the entire city ends up flooded and destroyed. After destroying the city, the Babam will mention the monsters in red and green, obviously being Mario and Luigi, and kindly asking you to leave. The sign seems to mention how the cries of civilians were silenced under the crashing of waves, and lest we forget where the devils soundly sleep and the forgotten gently weep. I think the devils are referring to the bros again. Another area is known as Flooded Downtown. Now due to this level's name and sharing a similarity to Downtown City and a similar design, they could possibly be connected in a way. Unlike Downtown City, this level is entered in an already flooded state. Talking to the small Goomba asks if their homes and families were in your way, and whatever you can do can't be worse than what you've already done. In this case, flooding the entire city. The city. Now unlike the levels I've talked about previously, this level has much more modern architecture, probably taking place in a more modern time. The city takes place at night, so almost no NPCs are out at the time, but various scuttlebugs can be found. This area doesn't really have as much of a story as the previous areas, as the level takes place in the present, unlike Downtown City taking place mostly in the past, when the deed has already been done. Yet the bros continue to flood this place anyway. Next is Wet Dry Paradise, which actually shows a redemption for the brothers, as in this level they are actually destroying the crystals that they've been using to destroy these towns. The NPCs here seem to be blissfully unaware of what the brothers are capable of. They mention the crystals having a negative aura to them, a reference to the original Mario 64 ICEBERG. Destroying them has effectively saved the village and grants you a power star. Next is Babam Village, which seems to take the story on a bit of a twist. This seems to take place near the end of the timeline, as the residents here hold a certain disdain for the bros now, as the bros have found their hiding place according to the Babam. They fled this town due to you flooding the only world they've ever known. Now due to the bros flooding multiple towns, I'm not sure which town he's talking about specifically, but I'd like to think he's talking about Dry Town, as Downtown City takes place in the past, and the city didn't appear to have any Goombas like Dry Town does. The Babam mentions that you're no different from the Tyrant, and what will happen if you steal the stars, but cuts himself off saying there's no use, and to do whatever you want. Talking to the Goombas here, they all simply just tell you to get lost. I assume the Tyrant the Babam is talking about here is Bowser. Does that mean some of the town floodings could be from the king himself? As he says you're no different from him. Now, collecting the star here will send you to Dead Village. Power stars are used to power worlds in B33, and taking them appears to destroy them, as the Babam warns you about. Taking their power star has effectively killed the entire populace, and only a shadowy figure remains. After exploring the plexus for a while, you may notice a strange door in the internal garden, one that's high up and out of reach. Finding your way up there and entering this door will take you to the unsettling maze. This area is a series of dark, maze-like hallways with various Bowser paintings and other paintings. What's most notable is how strange these Bowser paintings are. They are more green, and Bowser appears to be grinning and sticking out his tongue in a very creepy way. The other paintings you can find here are also not normal. The tiny huge island Goombas have no eyes, and the cool mountain painting has a Mr. Eye in place of one of the snowmen. Finally, by entering the door with the eyeless Peach painting above it, you can appear to find what is Peach's room, or Bowser's room. This room is strange and out of place here. How would you have a bedroom in a place like this? If it was Peach's room, it would make no sense with the giant Bowser painting, along with what lies outside the door. At Bowser's room, I can't imagine having a pink and purple color scheme with Peach portraits everywhere. What are these strange green Bowser paintings anyways? Anyways, I'd be quiet here. Make sure nothing hears you through the cracks in these walls. Around the plexus, primarily in the beta 3rd floor, many test levels can be found. These are levels that were used in the creation of Mario 64. Due to that, these levels are extremely basic, containing basic geometry, with very little enemies or even any at all, and usually containing a single star. Each test level usually has some sort of theme, such as enemy test, platform test, collision test, etc., and all serve as a little cool reference to the creation of Mario 64. One of B33's main inspiration sources is the Mario 64 iceberg, and one of the most popular entries on that iceberg is the Wario apparition. B33 already has entries from the iceberg somewhat included in the hack, such as the Mario 64 personalization theory, which is the entire basis of the hack. For some, it might be surprising that the Wario apparition is not included at all. What's odd is an uncanny basement from Classified, which contains the water apparition, was included in the hack. The apparition itself was not. I think the main reason it wasn't included in the hack was kind of due to ruining the horror of it. Let me explain. B33 horror works so well due to it being subtle and more psychological. There's really only 2 main jump scares in the entire game, and most other horror is just the areas you find and the weird things you can find in the plexus. Even those not really being jump scares at all. I think including a whole sequence with the water apparition would kind of just be phoning in horror for the sake of it. But I don't know, maybe it could work if it was included well. This area can be entered by breaking through a hole in the wall within the prison of Bowser's domain, and entered through the hole in the bottom. This escape route takes place outside of a massive version of Peach's castle, casted in darkness with uneven platforming to cross. No music plays here at all, and after all the platforming, you will jump down and walk on a large path of dark stone before entering a different area of the castle. This is another strange area, as there is no origin being an original creation. In B33, this was one of the easier ways to access a red star, as it would almost take you directly there, but in 1.0 it doesn't really serve much of a purpose anymore, as it's no longer a red star. This is another area, the aforementioned Faceless Mario, aka the AI. This area is a direct reference to SM64 Classified, as by entering Lethal Cavern, where you unlock the metal cap, you may find a strange black hole in the wall with a sign warning you about entering the hole, saying you might see strange things. Entering will send you to Crawly Cave, a large corridor that quickly cuts to a void, with an ominous Mario in the distance. What's strange is this Mario does not try to attack the player at all. Unlike most other times he's encountered, he just stands there, looking into the distance. Touching him will still crash the game though. The corridor that Luigi entered from will start to glitch out as well, upon stepping into the darkness. This area is also inescapable as fast travel is disabled. SGI Indy is a level that's based on a real-life SGI Indy. Its level layout is meant to be shaped like the motherboard of one. This is one of the much harder B33 levels, as most of the ground is quicksand and will instantly kill you. This level is found in polygonal chaos and entered via a beam of light coming out of the ground in some sort of corrupted machine. There's actually another way to enter this level, which I'll touch on later, but it's really one of the stranger B33 levels, as it's not really based on anything Mario 64, or even Mario whatsoever. This is an area that can be mainly entered through Plexal Basement. It's a strange gateway area that's a long hallway outdoors, surrounded by water, in the castle to your left, or right. Notably, a large Peach painting can be found staring you down. This area is one of the oldest B33 areas and has gone through big design changes. You are also able to enter a pipe behind the Peach painting, using a vanish cap found nearby. This area is another area that sort of gives off a calming vibe. It's not a lot you really get to be outside of the Plexus unless you're in a level. And these sort of courtyard balcony-esque areas always seem to have a different vibe to them. This lobby looks nearly identical to Vanilla Lobby from Mario 64, but with a few inconsistencies. The lighting is much dimmer with shadows casted in all the corners of the area, and the stairs being replaced with a singular stair, as well as none of the doors except the double door at the top of the stairs work. This lobby is directly taken from a 1996 beta version of Mario 64. Which also is interesting to know is that jumping in the Peach window will crash the game. Inside of Plexel Basement 2, a random hallway with a pit that has a light coming from it on the other side can be found. Trying to walk towards this pit will have the hallway continuously teleport you back indefinitely. This is in a similar vein to the endless staircase from Mario 64. Even using cheats to get to this pit will show that nothing is actually contained inside, such as a secret level or something. This seems just like to be a reference to Super Mario 64 and does not appear to have any deeper meaning associated with it. Maybe it's just used to taunt the brothers' curiosity that more levels exist. By entering the pipe in the Blood Lake, you will be taken to a version of the main castle grounds covered in a red glow. It's similar to the main castle grounds with a few notable changes. The toad in the courtyard is decapitated, along with the red star door at the top of the castle. This door requires you to find every red star in order to be opened. What's also notable is the music. It's the carousel theme from Big Boo's Haunt. This music can be interpreted as being used to taunt you, to show you that even when you think you can escape, you just get sent right back to the castle grounds. You can simply leave this area by entering the main castle's doors. This area is found where the original aquarium could be found in Mario 64. This aquarium has a similar design to the original with a few changes. About half the aquarium is empty, along with it being shrouded in a blue fog. The most notable change is how the health works. Normally by ascending from the water, you will quickly gain back your health, but in this level, not only your health drains much faster underwater, but you continue to lose HP while on the water's surface. Why this happens is unknown and appears to be unique to this level. Within the Plexel basement, you can find a lone pipe within one of the walls. Going near it will... Beyond the waters of the flooded basement lies the Toad Catacombs, a memorial site of sorts that looks like Big Boo's haunt. Talking to the Toad here will ask you to pay respects for the dead. Now this area brings up many questions. Why do toads have their own strange graveyard of sorts, only accessible in such an unconventional way, and seemingly so hidden? A very large grey toad statue also lies here. Standing on the 5 gravestones will get you a red star. Why does an area like this have such importance where a red star has to be hidden? This also implies that various toads among the Plexus have died, but from what? I can't see toads dying of natural causes, as that wouldn't really make sense in this world. Was something out to get them? Would that explain why the catacombs are so hidden? This is one of the much more recent B33 areas added. Added in 1.0.2, this area can be entered in various ways. It takes on the form of a large dungeon with red and black tiled floors and brown metal walls. It is very large, containing 3 whole floors. For being a sort of hub area, no stars or paintings can be found. Now this area's main purpose was to replace the outdated shame areas, but why nothing was placed here is so odd. Not a single star or level, just an empty, unused dungeon. Various Bowser paintings can also be found here as well. It also has its own unique track that was made months before this area ended up getting added to B33. Shadow Forest and Mips Forest. A dark foreboding forest casted entirely in darkness. This area was inspired by Wonderland Woods, a similar area in 0.9 that got replaced by this one. You can enter this area by entering the gray painting in Polygonal Chaos, or through Mips's forest via the pipe. The pipe here that takes you there is a version of this forest that's much less dark, with Mips, who warns you that you shouldn't be walking around unknown places. This area is quite strange and Polygonal chaos is a mess of textures and collision, with no theme at all. Due to how messy and unfinished it is, this could be an area made by the very early stages of the AI, maybe before it was able to get used to the world of Mario 64. This area has a similar look to Floor B in Mario Classified, where all the textures are a mess due to the AI reaching its breaking point. Perhaps Polygonal Chaos could also be like that, due to this area also being made during its breaking point. Mr. I is a pretty basic enemy in Mario 64, only showing up in 3 levels: Hazy Maze Cave, Lethal Lava Land, and Big Boo's Haunt. Now in B33, they hold much more significance. Levels that contain them will usually have dozens, along with them having their own basement and maze. Finally, they have their own trap, where a giant Mr. I will kill you. They even get a few paintings of their own. Why are they used so much? Some of them function differently, and will frantically look around until spotting you, quickly rushing at you and killing you. This function is a reference to Please Come to the Castle. Maybe the eyes are used as the eyes of the AI keeping watch on you. The AI itself and its creation's key features are a lack of eyes. Unlike the toads in the wet-dry world significance, I can't find a main reason why they are so used, other than being sort of creepier enemies. Within the Plexus, a secret Koopa society can be found. Within the level Cozy Woods, you can talk to a Bob-omb who will mention that the woods he lives in used to once belong to the Koopas, until they built their own city in fear of invaders. He also hints that the city may be close by. Finding a hole in the waterfall will take you to this city. Entering and talking to the Koopa will have him warn you about what will happen without power stars, harnessed by their unity. Does this imply that the Koopas themselves have been gathering power stars? Another question is, what invaders are these Koopas talking about? And I think the invaders are meant to be Mario and Luigi, as they're already known for invading and destroying cities and civilizations. You can also find Koopa the Quick here, who will greet you with a warm welcome and challenge you to a race. With how different and spiteful a lot of the NPCs are in B33, it's a nice change of pace to see that Koopa the Quick is still relatively friendly, or just unaware that he is currently talking to one of the invaders. Inside of No Man's Land, you'll find a giant snowman from the original Snowman's Land, but he seems to be harboring a sinister smile. This level is mostly empty with a lone house, an ice moto, and a mother penguin. Now with the level name of No Man's Land, what happened to the people who lived here? And who lived in the house that can't be entered? This is not the first time random houses can be found in B33. Maybe it was built by the Koopas, as it was implied they have traveled to the land before settling down in Cozy Woods. But what did this snowman do? Entering the normally unenterable Bob-omb battlefield painting in the mirrored upstairs, you will be taken to Forgotten Battlefield. This area takes on the appearance of a Bob-omb battlefield but seems to be completely destroyed by corruption. This functions similarly to the corruption in Pleasant Falls. I have a personal theory that the levels like this in Corrupted Falls were once normal areas that the AI most likely destroyed in rage, or overwhelming emotion. The AI is already prone to do this in areas like Floor 4B, so I think it fits. There are no stars in this level, and you can only leave via fast travel, or resetting your game. While it's difficult, it is possible to explore almost entirely of this level. Sadly, nothing interesting can really be found. This entry has to do with the actions that Mario has taken throughout B33. Mario, as we all know, is meant to be the hero, the man to save the princess, savior of the Mushroom Kingdom. But in B33 it's not quite true. While he's still seemingly jovial and is supposedly trying to save the princess, the actions he takes in order to gather the power stars are questionable at best. The main culprit being previously mentioned town floodings. NPCs warn Mario what will happen if he takes their power stars and floods their towns, but he proceeds to anyway. With how long Mario's been trapped in the Plexus, being tormented by the AI lookalike? Why should he care anymore? And is he entirely in the wrong? These towns and areas Mario destroys simply reset after he escapes these levels. Do the actions he takes really have any consequences? It's unlikely that these NPCs are sentient. They appear to have history and such as the Koopas, but it's most likely just history placed there by the one in control, the AI. Mario's actions are sort of morally gray in the grand scheme of things. As I've mentioned already, faceless toads are toads created by the AI, while normal toads, who are most likely citizens of the castle, are not. The yellow toad is unique to this, and I think it was also created by the AI, trying to imitate toads. This toad also has dialogue more akin to an NPC made by the AI, more than a normal toad. Talking about how there's no outside of the castle, and the plexus is all there ever was. I think the AI could eventually learn to make almost identical toads, along with other NPCs. This is a theory that B33 is possibly a sequel or a branching timeline from Classified. The ending of Mario 64 Classified has Mario destroy the core and finally turn off the AI, setting it free. A good amount of the AI-made areas in Classified are present in B33, but most of the areas are completely original as well. It's possible that maybe in this universe, Mario was never able to break the core and the AI was never turned off, creating more and more fake areas, leading to the castle we find now, a sprawling mess of rooms as the AI is left to its own devices. The two cores that you can find in B33 can be broken, freezing your game, but they don't appear to actually destroy the AI, as resetting the game has simply everything go back to normal. But resetting the game could also be seen as turning back on the AI. Maybe the frozen game represents the true ending of B33, because what does getting all the stars really get you? Nothing. The AI is still there, roaming and creating. Breaking the core could be interpreted as the true ending. While at first the plexus may seem like it's mostly based around Peach's castle, there are several areas that are seemingly controlled by Bowser. Areas like Bowser's castle, Bowser's domain, Bowser's floor, and places like Castle Depths and possibly Unsettling Maze. It's sort of interesting to see how Bowser, instead of having his own castle in areas like in most Mario games, is just expanding his own territory in the B33 castle, due to the circumstances. If it's Bowser and his minions that are building these areas, it's kind of like a fight for turf against the AI, but it's also entirely possible all these areas were also just created by the AI themselves. The eel was one of the most feared enemies in the original Mario 64, but the same cannot be said about it in B33. In areas like Eel Graveyard and Creepy Cove, the once scary eel can be found dead, especially in the Eel Graveyard, which houses dozens of dead eels. Live eels can be found in the Courtyard Trap, where they are all seemingly trapped, used to kill Mario when he steps into it. Now the question is, what happened to these eels? What entity was out to destroy them? They were once one of the most powerful enemies in Mario 64. What predators could they possibly have? Perhaps the AI did it, to show Mario that not even the strongest and scariest foe is a match for them. Entering a Bowser painting inside of the Plexel lobby will take you to a stone temple area of sorts. It's kinda similar to the inside of the Shifting Sandland Temple, where you would fight Irock. You'll be forced to walk along a small path that is shrouded in fog, with a looming statue of Bowser in the distance. Approaching it will have him disappear and you will shortly be killed. This area sort of shows Mario that Bowser is also under the AI's control. Now taking a closer look at the Bowser statue, you will see that it has red eyes, sharing the same design as the familiar, shadowy brother. New to 1.0, you can find what appears to be Mario and Luigi's house. Their house includes 2 beds for the brothers respectively, along with a small kitchen and a table, with a crate that contains a green star. Behind Mario's bed, you can find a book titled The End, which could be a reference to one of the Mario Classified videos. Exiting their house, you will be taken to a peaceful little valley, with a waterfall and a few other houses that have nothing inside of them. Entering the waterfall will take you to Castle Depths. Now, even though the area states that this is the Bros' house, I doubt it actually is, due to the house being so intertwined with the Plexus, being adjacent to floor 4B, it's probably just a trick being played on them. Perhaps this is a house that the brothers constructed themselves after staying for so long, though this was most likely just another area made by the AI. But if it is, it's definitely one of the nicer areas created, a resting spot of sorts. This is not the same as the scale changes to the player in-game, but on a more atmospherical level. This game uses scale in very interesting ways to invoke fear and wonder into the player. Calmer and more peaceful areas will usually angle the camera downwards, similarly to Mario 64. The area themselves will also be somewhat smaller to convey a relatively normal Mario 64 experience, along with letting you view a lot of the area. This greatly contrasts the castle, where the camera will frequently angle more behind you, making you feel smaller and more enclosed, if that makes sense. Finally, the game uses scale best in the creepier areas of the game, and I think the best example is Unsettling Maze. The hallway looks massive from Mario's perspective, needing to look up at all the creepy paintings, along with a dark hue being used, to make your view very small and enclosed. This makes the creepy paintings a lot more unsettling, as they will slowly show up in your view, along with you never really being able to see what's in front of you. Nightmare Basement is an area that can be entered by going through the door in Vanilla Courtyard, and it all feels so familiar. Crumbling Castle is an area that is sort of a broken version of the normal Peach's castle. Due to Bowser's influence already in B33, it's possible that the castle is destroyed because of him. A lot of the holes in the doorways are quite large, which would make sense with Bowser's size. Along with Bowser already having his own areas in the castle, perhaps Bowser's purpose for this destruction is to take over more of it. I'm going to talk about Bowser a lot more in this layer, as I have my own theory about him. There were two planned endings for the 0.9 version of B33. One ended up getting scrapped, and the other was left mostly incomplete. They started out the same, getting the star from Bowser in the internal fort, a recreation of the vanilla SM64 cutscene, where Peach would beckon you into the castle and the camera would fade to Mario in the void. Now what would happen next was based on your star count. The bad ending would have you spit back to Plexa Lobby, just like in 0.7, and the good ending would take you to Vanilla Castle grounds. Now the third scrapped ending is quite interesting. Mario would be sent to a copy of Vanilla Castle grounds where you could enter the castle, where he would see Peach and the Toads. While attempting to invite Mario to another room of the castle, you would fall into a trap door, trapped in a black box with all stars you previously collected removed. Peach would then say, "Well, looks like he was a little weak for the job. Let's see if we can find someone worthy." A new Mario would then spawn, slowly gaining his textures back, and would be greeted by Peach, who would send him into a pipe, where the vanilla SM64 cutscene would play, with him jumping out of it. We would see Peach one last time, where she would start transforming into different objects to then disappear. Afterwards, he would be sent to Monochrome Castle, like in the current version. This scrapped ending sounds really cool, and brings up a lot of questions about Peach and the Toads. Is she the one behind everything? This could also be another doing of the AI, but it's possible that even they aren't the one truly in control. If you've seen my last video, I would have mentioned that there are two main stories when it comes to the levels in B33. The first being the town flooding plotline, and I'm going to talk about the second one now. The Bob-omb War, or Bob-omb Time Loop. The story starts in Bob-omb River, this level taking place in the past. This level is based off the original idea for Bob-omb Battlefield, and at this point, the Bob-omb buddies and regular Bob-ombs are not at war, and everything is peaceful. Now from here you have two choices. Entering at the pipe in the top of the mountain will take you to the level inside the mountain, where Prince Bob-omb can be found. Talking to him tells you that this is his fortress, and you must prove yourself in battle to gain his star. Getting the star will simply have you exit the level. Now you could also enter a hole near the waterfall, which takes you to Dark Downtown. This area houses all the normal Bob-ombs, and is seemingly their hiding place before the war that occurs in Bob-omb Battlefield. Talking to the Bob-omb buddy here has him telling you that the villagers need to cool down, and is actively supporting you in flooding the town. Reaching to the top of the mountain, you could either grab the star to leave, or enter another pipe, taking you to Ice-Cold War Zone. At this point, Bob-omb Battlefield is in an outright war. The entire area is covered in snow, and tons of Chuckias, amps, and cannons shooting bubbles can be found. It seems at this point, perhaps whatever you've done in Dark Downtown has started the war. And at this point, it's been going on for so long where the battlefield became a wasteland. Getting the star at the top of the mountain here will not take you out of the level, but instead take you to Prince Bob-omb's Redemption, a level where you are placed at the top of the snowy mountain that is now completely desolate. Talking to Prince Bob-omb here will have him ask you how you found him. He asks you if you lost your sense of honor in the castle, seemingly blaming you for what his kingdom has become. There's also another pipe at the top of Ice-Cold War Zone that takes you to Limitless Lighthouse, a version of Bob-omb Battlefield that has been completely flooded. At what point in the time loop this area takes place is quite confusing. It's possible that this is after Prince Bob-omb's redemption. Perhaps the snow is completely melted and is now suffering a flood. But where did the lighthouse come from, and why is it here? It could also be part of the flood from Dark Downtown that maybe made its way up to the battlefield. I'm unsure. The chain chomp from Bob-omb Battlefield can also be found here dead, most likely drowning from the water. The water here also kills you like the water in Fish Tank and other cold levels. Now collecting the star here will take you back to Beta Bob-omb Battlefield, seemingly restarting the loop as another pipe can be found here, taking you back to Bob-omb River and etc. The storyline's quite interesting though, and shows the history of the Bob-ombs and the war that happened in the original Mario 64. Inside of Bowser's floor, you can sit atop Bowser's throne in order to be taken to Peach's floor. These areas are very similar, except that there are many holes in the walls, and the Peach painting gets replaced by a sky painting, along with the entire exterior of this area being removed. Now it's possible this could represent some sort of time machine. Bowser's already taken over other areas of the Plexus, so this warp could be a sort of time machine going back in time to when this area belonged to Peach. It could also just be another doing of the AI, as Bowser is really just a puppet. What's also notable is the Toad statue remains. If Bowser took over this area, it'd be strange for him to keep a statue representing Peach's people. This sort of ties to the significance of Toads from earlier. Inside of Bob.Z64, underneath one of the flower beds, a hole can be found. Entering this hole will take you to this level. At first it seems to be nothing but a void, however exploring further you can find Prince Bob-omb's mangled body lying down. He no longer has any arms and one of them seems to be coming out of his head. Approaching him causes the game to crash. This area name is quite strange as the character who is found here is Prince Bob-omb, despite the level being called King Bob-omb's Void. Due to the inconsistency, this scene is most likely not part of the previously mentioned Bob-omb time loop, as its inclusion wouldn't really make sense. Bowser is one of the reoccurring antagonists in B33. Now, unlike in Mario 64 and most Mario games, Bowser is not the main villain, and I think that Bowser is barely present at all, at least in physical form. The AI is known to have pretty much total control over the Plexus, including most NPCs that were made by them. It's not impossible that this AI also created who we think is Bowser. Unlike in Mario 64, the Bowser fights in B33 are very primitive. He has no dialogue whatsoever when encountered or defeated, and only drops a single star and coins. But I think there's an exception, which is Bowser in the Eternal Fort. I think that is the real Bowser. He is the only one who speaks, and drops a Grand Star when defeated. Bowser does have presence in B33, as I believe he and his army has taken over various areas of the Plexus, turning them into areas like Bowser's Domain, Bowser's Floor, etc. I just think a lot of the Bowsers you fight in B33 are simply illusions. Most likely just another way to trick Mario. I feel like Bowser is also not involved with the AI whatsoever. He seems like the kind of guy to just work alone. Probably has just seen all the infinitely expanding castle and decided to take over parts for himself. Defeating Bowser and collecting the Grand Star will take you to this level. A level with white and red checkerboard pattern, similar to the checkerboards level from earlier. In one of the corners, a lone pipe and sign can be found. The sign will read, "Where is he?" This is most likely referring to Luigi. The level name Beginnings could refer to the beginning of Mario 64, where obviously Luigi is not present, due to being lost to the beta builds. The actual level seems to be inspired by the 1995 Shinosaki build, where a similar area could be found. Many games have their own iconic areas. Bomb Battlefield from Mario 64, 1-1 from Mario Bros, and etc. And many players have fond memories of such areas. Now B33 is not the same at all. Every single player is bound to have a completely different experience. After the first red star, the entire game opens up, and every player is bound to have a different route and discovery. Nothing beats finding the shadowy figure for the first time, and my first experience exploring Floor 2B. And even smaller levels like Chroma Tundra. Every player is bound to have their own first discovery, and I find that kinda cool. Now this feeling is not necessarily exclusive to B33. Other open world games have non-linear progression, but with B33, the order people do everything is exclusive to them. I guess you could say it's personalized. Now this is a more personal entry, as this possible glitch has happened to me. While messing around, I ended up doing a BLJ in pink upstairs. Entering the door, backwards, would send me into a small box inside a polygonal chaos. Entering the door again, instead of taking me back to pink upstairs, would either warp me to Sinjai Indy or Shadow Forest. What's actually funny is this is how I genuinely discovered these two areas on a first playthrough. I had no idea there was a painting or warp that took me to these areas normally. And I've never seen any other footage of this happening before, but I found it kinda cool. Something you may notice while exploring the Plexus is the sheer amount of Peach paintings that can be found. They are the same painting used in Mario 64, but something feels off. How giant they are in some areas, and how they feel like they're staring you down. The eye's almost following you. The expression alone that Peach has feels off. The Bowser paintings have Bowser smiling evilly, which is fitting for his character, and doesn't really feel off. But Peach just has sort of a shocked expression with her eyes wide open. You'd think the painting would have her, I don't know, with a pleasant smile? This shines the most in Floor 2B and 3B, and Clock Hall. The painting just staring at you as you walk past, sort of negative aura. You never truly feel safe. Along with Peach's questionable actions within the plot of B33, her seemingly normal paintings feel like they have something sinister behind them. When entering the uncanny courtyard, it will have three states: peaceful, windy, and crimson. In the peaceful state, there will be no plaque, along with there being a maze behind the courtyard. When going inside the empty pond, the backyard will change. It will become much darker. The El is Real statue will appear, along with a large wall replacing the old maze, replacing it with a much bigger one. The peaceful chirping of birds will be replaced with a harsh wind. Now this windy version of the courtyard most likely represents Luigi's death. In Classified, we see what happened to him, and how the aura of the castle was never the same after his demise. And that same situation is replicated in B33, after what happened to him again. The castle was never the same. All that's left is a lone statue to remember him by. El is Real, 2401. Throughout this entire iceberg, I've been talking about the AI, also known as Stanley, the faceless Mario who seems to have total control over the Plexus, but I've been neglecting another entity that can be found, the shadowy figure, a shadow that takes on the form of him. They do not appear as much as Stanley, and do not appear to have the ability to communicate with us like Stanley does. At the same time, this figure's intentions seem much darker than Stanley's. While Stanley does try to go after us, we know the situation they're in, and they're basically in eternal pain. But this shadowy figure seems to be much more malicious. They mostly appear in more unsettling areas of the Plexus, like the Dead Village and Shadow Forest, and they take on a much more backseat role compared to Stanley, just like Luigi to Mario. The most notable area is the area where most players meet them for the first time, inside of the scary sewer maze. In this level, they appear to be in a dormant state, requiring the player themselves to approach and summon them. The most notable area with this figure is inside of Moto's factory, where they can be seen watching as Luigi gets repeatedly crushed by a crusher. Compare this to Stanley, who truly cared about Luigi. This figure, despite taking on this form, seems to have no care for him at all. Now, if this figure is also an AI of sorts, I don't think it's as powerful as Stanley, most likely not being able to create its own areas and communicate. All they appear to be able to do is taunt Mario. No matter where you are in the Plexus, nowhere feels truly safe. Wandering around, coming across so many areas that almost feel familiar, like they could have come straight from Mario 64. Throughout most of the game, you're completely alone. The odd NPC may show up from time to time, but aside from that, it's just you. What doesn't help is when you end up finding some truly unsettling areas. Most of the areas are odd and familiar, but never truly scary. What helps with this is the music choice for so many areas, usually remixes or deviations from songs in the original Mario 64, making the songs feel almost familiar. No area in the game ever makes you feel safe, because you never know what the next door could lead to. With a game this big, the idea that an area you once came across would never be found again is a strange thing to think about. With how maze-like B33 is, it's easy to forget where most levels and warps take you. You never really know when you're going to find a specific area again. Even for people that have played B33 enough to memorize the locations of most areas, it's possible to forget. As an example, the pipe playrooms. This is one of the very first areas I explored in B33, and after finding it once, I was never able to find it again. For months, to the point where I genuinely questioned if this area even existed, till I ended up finding it once again. The idea that something like that can happen in B33, a game that makes you start to question if an area even exists, is really interesting. Most of the horror of B33 relies on the endless nature of it, and this mostly stems from the castle. The castle is where you'll spend probably most of your time, wandering the halls, but on your way, you'll encounter various levels. These levels usually kind of give you an escape from the eerie nature of the Plexus, usually being based off actual beta levels or being entirely original. Most of these levels usually have nothing eerie inside of them, serving as your typical Mario 64 experience. They sort of give off a nostalgic feeling due to how familiar a lot of these levels are, but within these levels, you're never truly safe. While most horror events lie within the castle, even in a fun level like Moto's Factory, a sinister secret can be found. Levels like Dry Town and the Bob-omb Battlefield time loop levels have quite the history when you look deeper into it. The various paintings in the Plexus that may seem like an escape are really no different than the castle you're stuck in. Now we already know a lot about the main AI in B33, mostly because of the Mario Classified series. We know that Stanley is not necessarily the villain, even though the series sort of sets it out that way. They are the direct cause of the Plexus being the way it is, the reason all these strange sort of familiar areas exist. But the shadowy figure is a completely original creation, who takes on the form of the other brother. They prefer to only show themselves in areas that Mario has destroyed, like in Dead Village, but also in more remote areas, like in the level Wet or Dry, where they can possibly be seen standing right by the fountain. The same fountain where he can be found in Mario Classified. This brings up the question, with him being in the same spot as Luigi, could this possibly be Luigi? That wouldn't make much sense. Going over to Moto's Factory, we can see the figure floating by Luigi's corpse, as it's getting crushed by a crusher. It wouldn't make sense for this figure to be Luigi if he is actively participating in tormenting him. The place where most people find this figure for the first time is an eerie sewer, where he can be found dormant until approached, sort of turning on, meaning it could have been another dormant AI like Stanley as I mentioned previously. But there being another AI wouldn't make much sense, especially with the established lore of B33 and Classified. The figure can also be found sealed behind a black brick wall in Nebula Lobby, being a direct parallel to Luigi in the fountain, inside of Challenge Lobby. This figure and Luigi must be connected in some way, right? But how? And why is this figure so hell-bent on torturing the Green Plumber? We know Stanley cared about him, and has never shown any ill feelings towards the brother. It wouldn't make sense for this to be his creation. I've mentioned once before how the game keeps track of stuff, like how many red stars you have gathered, and will alter the game accordingly. But that's not everything. The game will also take into account how much damage you have taken, amount of time you are swimming, time you're in the air, and even your current speed and health will alter the gameplay accordingly, changing what your health bar may look like and replacing enemies with stronger variants. Now most B33 players most likely know this, but it's possible that the Plexus tracks more than just that. With how large the game is, you would never notice an asset out of place, perhaps a moved painting or a moved box. The Plexus could alter anything. And would you ever notice? Would you ever realize that the game you're playing is constantly changing and shifting to suit your needs? This could explain why some areas stick out to specific players. The areas are tailor-made for them. You can come across various Peach apparitions in the castle, especially at night, most just being visions to spook Mario. But this brings up the question, where is the real Peach? We know the real Bowser exists most likely, being the one in Eternal Fort, along with being the sole force behind several areas in the Plexus, taking them over, expanding his reach in the Plexus. But what about Peach? Unlike in Mario 64, she does not appear to be kidnapped by Bowser. He doesn't really seem involved in her disappearance in the first place. You can technically find her after defeating Bowser, where she mentions that all the power has been restored to the castle. But this Peach is not actually her, just another illusion. We never really do find the real Peach. Is she even alive, or just lost somewhere in the Plexus, just like Mario? According to the sign written in the personalization chamber, entering the painting ahead will sense your very own thoughts and will change accordingly, and can vary from your wildest dreams to most inhumane nightmares. Entering the painting can take you to various areas, all with a random chance. Now if this sign is telling the truth, why not hop inside? A painting that can take you anywhere? What are you waiting for, Mario? Hop in!
Hey, paisanos. Didn't miss me too much, huh? Well, thank you for watching the B3313 Iceberg. It's been one heck of a journey, and it's great to see it finally wrap up. Expect a full Supercut version sometime in the future, for ease of viewing, and more of me. For anyone who watched the entire thing, old Mario's gotta thank you. And sorry this part took so long, intern had college stuff, yeah. Anyways, see you later, paisanos.